Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And welcome to another very not spooky episode of the Good Leader Podcast, because we're past Halloween. It's over. It's in the rearview mirror. I don't know when this is going to drop, but Halloween was probably a week ago, a couple of weeks ago even at this point. So we're recording this, however, in full transparency. Actually, am I wrong? You know what? Am I wrong? I've got an Am I Wrong segment. Do we have an Am I Wrong drop? I wasn't even planning on this, but it just hit me out of nowhere, and I need your opinions on this.
Let's hear it.
Do we have a drop for that? Do we have an Am I Wrong sound? I would love it. Coming in hot.
Am I wrong?
Am I wrong?
This is a good one.
Actually, that's pretty good. I like that.
That was on the cuff.
Okay,
We're really
that was
just
good.
trying new things.
We're trying new things, people. We're
We
trying
don't
new
know what
things.
we're doing.
Thank you for listening, Good Leader Nation. So am I wrong? I was just about to say, in full transparency, a lot of media that we consume these days, are they telling us the truth? Is this AI generated? Did this thing ever happen? I mean, and on the biggest levels, this is like national news. Like what's really happening in Israel? Some of that stuff could be computer generated.
Language.
Just
Okay.
talked about this before you guys came.
Yeah.
We had a whole conversation.
Well, there are absolutely very serious implications for that I'm worried about the downfall of humanity. But on a much lighter note, I just said the Good Leader Podcast. I don't know when you're listening to this. So I was just going to say in full transparency, we were recording on November 2nd. Is today November 2nd? Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
Still,
Happy November, y'all.
Happy November. It's November 2nd. So I'm just past Halloween, but you could be listening to this 2 weeks from now, So in full transparency, we don't record live, we don't drop it immediately. So some of our references might be dated. And I just want to be honest with our audience. So am I wrong? Because I am so sick of my social media accounts. Because you know me, I'm only on pretty much only one. Jess, what social media do I love?
He loves LinkedIn, y'all.
Thank you.
Give him a follow.
If you talk to me on Instagram, you're not talking to me. You're talking to Jess.
me.
You're talking to Jess. So if you reach out,
If Jared said he loved your
if I
reel,
loved your post,
Jess did.
Nope, that was Jess that loved it through my account. So thank you, Jess. I appreciate that. But on LinkedIn, I do like LinkedIn. We keep it professional over there. You know what I mean? That's what we do most of the time. And then there are some things that I would still say are professional, like inspirational posts, videos, or whatever. But here's the thing that I'm sick of. I'm so sick of the inspirational post that might show, like, let's say if I'm looking across the road here and I'm looking across the street and there's a little old lady crossing the street, okay? And I'm filming the little old lady. And then some young punk comes up, and like knocks her cane out from underneath her, and like looks at her and is like, come on, get out of the way, lady, and moves on. And then the headline, though, is like, humanity matters or people are kind. Because then, some nice young sweet person comes up, helps the little old lady. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jess? You've seen these, right? They help the little old lady across the street, and it's great. And that's wonderful. That's sweet. Am I wrong? I'm so sick of how set up that is. I'm like, this is all fake. This is all fake. Number one, if you're filming it, if this was real and you're sitting there filming it, joke's on you, loser. Like whoever's holding this camera is the biggest loser.
Have you seen the videos of people like feeding the homeless?
Yes. Okay,
And,
that's
like,
the same
buying them
vein.
stuff?
I hate it.
And
I
they're filming
hate it.
it
I
for
hate
views?
it. I hate it. I hate it all.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong for it.
Thank you. I'm like, this is obviously set up. Number one, I don't randomly just carry around. Maybe people are do this these days. Are you just randomly carrying your camera around all the time?
If you're a vlogger, I
Well,
can see it, but
sometimes.
if it's
Some
your job,
I'm just saying, the statistical chance for me to catch the little old lady getting knocked over and the Good Samaritan coming along and me pausing long enough to see the whole thing,
it's staged.
Okay, I'm done. It's all staged,
totally
and I'm
staged.
sick of it. That's not good
Man.
leadership to me.
I have never thought about this one time. I've just been like, that was funny. That
Every
was
day.
the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I think about it. The little, you're just laughing at the lady falling down?
No, maybe not that example, but I'm
Hunch.
thinking of like other like viral videos. If I really think back on it, I was like, that probably was fabricated. I don't know. I laughed super hard.
That's a good point. I think in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, this is not real. It's obvious it's not real, but I guess I consume that content as though it's a parable rather than this really happened. So maybe it's my expectation is that it's obviously fake. So I don't know.
But they don't present it as obviously fake in the same way.
You're
That's
right.
what made me
You're
think
right.
that. I said, hey, in full transparency here, we are not recording. Whenever you're listening to this is not when we recorded it. We recorded right after Halloween. So, but that's
He's
not how they
hitting
present it.
his-
They present it as, look at this real thing.
Yeah.
They don't say, like, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, a parable. You know, they don't disclaim it. Here's a good parable about leadership. Let's watch the little old lady get knocked over.
Yeah.
They don't say it's a parable. They present it as, look at this thing.
Yeah.
It's all about how it made you feel, not how real it was.
Well, the one that really pushed me over the edge most recently.
Yeah, there's got to be one.
Well, there's one that pushed me over the edge. There are 100. The like feeding people, giving homeless people food or money.
And then videoing
Which, by
it.
the way, I'm all for that. If you want to give to
If
someone
you're
in
seeking
need,
film it.
if you're
I'm
seeking
all
attention
yes,
from
I'm
it,
all for it. If
then-
I film it, oh my gosh, yeah, abomination of all abominations.
Moral of the story: stop filming.
Seriously, just
stop.
anyway. Okay, the one that pushed me over the edge was there's a gentleman. It's a rainstorm. Okay, Jess, you may have seen this. You may be the only one on the pod besides myself who's seen it because we consume a lot of social media. You and I. There's a gentleman.
Yeah.
It's a rainstorm and it's a flood on a street. A gentleman is in a wheelchair and appears to be a paraplegic, and he's going along in his wheelchair, and he's in the rain, in the flood. Now, once again, this is being filmed by somebody, and he can't get up the curb to get up on the sidewalk from the street, and so he falls backward in his wheelchair.
Oh,
Don't worry, fear not, fear not.
There was somebody
The
there.
cameraman is not helping, but fear not.
I was just about to say, did the person holding the camera jump in?
No, someone came along on a moped, coincidentally at the same time, who, hey, also happens to only have one leg. And so that gentleman got off of his bike with the one leg, who has one leg, and helps the other gentleman. My point is, this is the most ridiculously staged thing ever. And you're presenting it as truth. It pushed me over the edge. I was like, what in the world? In a rain? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done with it.
The only time I thought of that was, have you seen this one's so funny to me, is the teacher, and she's like doing her class driver, and she's like going through words that rhyme, like little kids, maybe like 4 or 5. And she's like, okay, so hit, bit. She's like looking for words.
Oh, man.
Little one goes, shit. And she was like, and that
does rhyme. That does rhyme.
I'm not gonna put it on the board because good job. Give me a high five.
and they
Have you
videoed
never
it.
seen those? Yeah, but then I laughed so hard at that every time. But a few days ago, I was like, but why was a camera up? Like, that is kind of random. That a camera was just like there at the moment it happened. But man, she went viral. So that one killed me. That's kind of, I just find videos I laugh at.
You know what?
I don't have any paraplegics on my feed.
No. Well, leadership
I don't know what
lesson of
that
the
says
day.
about me.
Leadership lesson of the day. Maybe, and I'm getting all of these things. I don't know what it says. Either maybe I am a good Samaritan or I really need to be one. I don't know where I fall. It's like, wow, Jared, you really need to listen to this stuff. Or maybe I'm doing it. I don't know.
It makes you angry. So
You know
they're
what?
just like,
Maybe they just keep feeding the beast over here.
Yeah.
The leadership lesson of the day: be real. Be real. Be really real. Not the Be Real
Some
app, which is
people have an app
now
for it.
not real at
I
all.
was just about to say some people
Every
have an app
Be
for
Real,
that.
okay, every Be Real that anyone that I have ever been in, full disclosure, I do not have a Be Real. They give me full warning and make me prepare for the Be Real. Hey, I'm going to do my Be
Jess
Real,
and I
y'all.
don't live
Get
that
ready.
life.
Get ready.
I'm just like,
Get ready. Get ready. Anyway,
hey,
all right,
as the Gen Xers say, BFFR.
that's it.
What's that mean?
what?
I can't say it.
Thank you. We keep it. Yeah, Anj is
Oh,
already
got
pushing it.
it.
We keep
Be
no,
for real,
we're
for real.
no,
I
we're
know,
no,
but
no
it was such a
expletives.
funny
No
meme I
expletives
had
on
to
this.
tell.
All right, today we're not even talking about it at all. When we get back from the break, we're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about hard work. We're coming off of the quarterback lessons learned, and Anj is going to bring it home talking about burnout. I just got fired up. I'm sorry. That entire segment was just about me. Let's bring it to a good leader lesson. You know what? Be honest. Be real. Be transparent.
BFFR.
Good leadership. All right, let's head to the break.
You can purchase anything from Paradigm Shift at www.
Well, we don't sell anything. Okay, hold on. We're not Amazon. Okay, hold up. Sorry. We're trying some new.
Have you heard their new commercial?
You can purchase
it's like,
anything?
buy stuff. I'm like, yes, Amazon, buy it. We're buying stuff.
All right.
That's
All
actually
right,
pretty
here we
good.
go. That is pretty good. We're Amazon, buy stuff. Well, we're not Amazon, but you can buy stuff. Not anything.
What kind of stuff?
What kind of
we're gonna,
stuff?
Well, we're gonna cut this out. So
No, this is live. This is it.
Oh,
This is
no.
it. This
This
is
has gotta
staying in.
stick.
This is it.
no.
Be
All right,
real.
that was
Be
a commercial.
honest.
We'll try again next episode. You know what? Hey, it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. We'll try again next episode.
But why wouldn't
We're
we
all
make
trying
it
it out.
better when we can make it better?
You know what? I don't know.
Maximizer.
That's. Hey, I just leave it to the editing crew. That's
We
you guys.
can't edit that out after
That's
the
true.
segment
That's
we just
too
talked
good.
about.
That's
It's
true.
too good.
That's true. You know,
We're
we
being
like
honest,
commercials.
folks.
We try to do it live. We're trying to do it live. Jess stepped up to the plate. Said, I'll do the break. I'll do the commercial on the break. We'll talk
Jared
about
walked
medium
in,
talk
coming
cards.
in hot. Was like, who's doing what?
We're gonna need
and I
to
was like,
script.
I'll do the commercial.
We're gonna script these out.
I also said, you know what mood I'm in today? I was like,
And then claimed he wasn't in a mood.
I wasn't, but okay.
Well, he's not in his mean
No.
mood.
I'm
He's
not
in his real sarcastic mood. That's for sure.
never in a
I'm surprised you
mean
didn't
mood.
roast me just
Never
now
even
a little
You're
harder
in a mean
than-
mood way less than you ever were
The
before.
non-edit
Yeah.
is gonna roast you.
All right. Hey, today we are going to pick up on a conversation that we will in no way finish. This is an ongoing conversation. We've talked about it before on the podcast. It came up a little bit in the quarterback episode because Patrick Mahomes played hurt. It's a big lesson for both Anj and I playing hurt. Have you guys got a chance to watch any of the quarterback, by the way?
I have not.
That's okay.
I don't
Damn,
have
no.
Netflix.
we didn't convert him.
Kirk Cousins, the big winner of the show, got hurt this week.
Can you believe it?
It's so sad.
Oh
I
my
know.
gosh. I
Sam-
felt so bad for him.
Paradigm Shift Sam held a little like candlelight vigil for him. He was
I
very
believe that for
he
Paradigm
was-
Shift Sam.
Yeah, he was very moved,
Is
very
his name
sad.
Paradigm Shift Sam? No.
Yeah, so the audience
Paradigm
knows.
Shift Sam is so
I've
empathetic.
mentioned him in a couple episodes now. He was
Yeah.
very big on. He was very big on Kirk Cousins, which is great.
And that's okay. He was big on Mariota. That's what got me. I was like,
Well, Kirk was his number one. Mariota was his number two. That was his ridiculous stance. I didn't have a problem with him being big on Kirk Cousins. That
no,
was not
me
a
neither.
surprise.
It was Mariota.
He
too.
was higher on Mariota
Yeah.
than Mahomes. That's
Yeah.
insane. Almost pushed me to the edge of burnout. Having a conversation with him.
ding, ding.
What is going to keep me, Anj, from burning out? Do we know what is the definition of burnout? What's the difference? Take it away. Tell me what you got on burnout today.
Oh man, I have no encyclopedia definitions. That's not me. Kyle Price, very intelligent. He could probably spit you off a lot of those definitions in your head, right off the top of his head. I mean, but I will say this: I get this question a lot. How do I know I'm burned out?
Ooh, okay.
I say I get that question a lot as if I have an answer, and I have not lived enough life to really ever know an honest answer to that. But I have learned some framework that I challenge people with because I can't answer it for them. I think if anything, I've learned true burnout is much more internal than we've really acknowledged. And I also think people spit the word out like in a more superficial way than it actually is. The first framework I try and give people, well, I don't lead with this because it's kind of a deeper thought, but in my head, I'm going with, are you burned out or are you depressed? Sometimes one could equal the other. Sometimes they don't. But sometimes, like if you're depressed, but you're saying you're burned out, you switching your job is not going to change who you are. It's not going to change the paradigm of the world that the way that you view the world. It's not going to change suddenly your habits in and out of work. If you're depressed, there's so many other steps we need to take. And maybe one of those steps, is switching a job or switching a career, but it isn't the step. Now, burnout can often happen with the work that you perform, how you do that work, and maybe making a career change in order to help that. So that is like the first kind of, especially with the fact that we work with a lot of young people, that's something I challenge them with. Now, a framework that goes second, even below that, is this idea of when we talk about burnout versus depression, I challenge them with this. Are you having a hard time focusing, working, performing the tasks you need to do at work, but you can then go home and otherwise then live a content, happy life? You can find joys, you can find outlets outside of work. You're still able to do that. It is truly the in these walls with my boss when I have to have these conversations. That really could sound like burnout. Like I'm able to find other outlets. I think my job actually is asking too much of me. It is in this space that I'm not able to fully contribute in the way that I need to, or I'm contributing too much. Okay, that might sound like burnout to me. But I've talked to a lot of people where they're telling me their job is the problem. But then I ask that same question and they're like, no, I can't get out of bed Friday through Sunday. Oh
Yeah.
no, I'm not taking showers. Like I'm truly, conversations I've had. No, I don't want to go grocery shopping. I don't even want to leave my house. I'm like, okay, it sounds like we're masking some deeper things with the term burnout and blaming the boss or people we work with for that. Now, could that burnout maybe drive some of the depressive things we feel? Absolutely. Like I said, one is not they're not synonymous, but I definitely think they can play a part with each other. But the ways that we tackle those two things individually, I do not think is being talked about enough. And I don't think we're asking the harder questions to really uncover what's actually driving this issue. Is it work? Is it both? Or is there something that I'm not finding in balance to help me really help on all those levels?
Well, and so does Healthline.com. And I think this is a good point to interject. None of us here are psychologists or certified counselors in any way. So every
that's
conversation.
why I just asked the question.
It's
I'm like, wow,
it's a
sounds
great
like
question.
therapy's next
that we
step.
do not have an answer. But for the purposes of today's conversation and the way that we want to frame this is the Good Leader podcast. And I will say, I am not a clinician in any way, but I hear the word burnout a lot. I hear it a lot brought up with people. And I really like the way that Anj is framing it, because it can just be, I think that we've used burnout so much that it can just become ubiquitous with any sort of fatigue or problem or, like, I'm just burnt out. Like, okay, hold on. So Healthline.com tells me that, coined by the psychologist Herbert Freudenberger in the 1970s, burnout describes a severe stress condition that leads to severe physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. Much worse than ordinary fatigue, burnout makes it challenging for people to cope with stress and handle day-to-day responsibilities. To Anja's point, people experiencing burnout often feel like they have nothing left to give and may dread getting out of bed each morning. So it does maybe lend itself to other deeper depression-like symptoms. Oh, it even says they may even feel, even adopt a pessimistic outlook toward life and feel hopeless. Burnout doesn't go away on its own, and if left untreated, it can lead to serious physical and psychological illnesses like depression, heart disease, and diabetes. Okay.
And that's where I start the question with them often, because you want to try and peel back the layers to where did it start from? Did it start? I mean, some people it's very hard, very difficult, but some people actually have been depressed since they were like 5.
Yeah.
So it's like, I have like been in live conversations like this, and with myself. I'm speaking mainly from a lot of this from experience and what I've learned over the years. But all of the stress culminates to this moment, and now I think this moment is my problem. But I've actually been under intense stress, intense abuse my entire life. It is now culminating in a way that I can't take it anymore. And so now this moment must be my burnout. But it actually probably wasn't. There's probably some layers we need to peel back there. That's where I talk about people. And then that's really the part where I say we probably need to look at like therapy and I can't help you beyond this, but I do like to give people the framework that like, well, where's this really coming from? I don't think I've used this story on the podcast before. And if I have, I'm going to do it again, because this painted such a new picture for burnout for me that I've never gone back from seeing. So Timothy Keller, he started saying this during COVID. You all probably heard me tell this story, but he told this story when COVID first hit. So this is 2020. We're all experiencing life, right? I don't have to paint that picture. So he's in 2020 and he is talking to like this group of, I don't know if it was pastors or leaders or who it was, but he was talking about a pastor who called him. He was a pastor in New York City. So he was pastoring during 9/11, when 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, he got a call from, I think it was another pastor or leader somewhere, in actually OKC after the bombings here. I don't know enough to know exactly when that was, but it was certainly before 9/11, 95. And so wow, years later, so he calls him and he's like, I want to walk you through what's about to happen to you with 9/11. After 9/11, I want to walk you through what's about to happen to you. And Timothy Keller was like, okay, yeah, a lot's happened. He's like, no, I want to talk about what's going to happen to you in 2 or 3 years, because you're all going to get through this. You're going to be like on a pretty big mend with this. It's going to be people are going to show up. They're absolutely going to show up. But the burnout from this moment, you are not going to see in your staff until 2 to 3 years later. And they are all going to leave. They will not be able to take it anymore. What is happening to you today, right now, is going to culminate in 2 years, and you should be ready to have a new team. And he says this story, and he's like, I honestly was like, you don't know what you're like, my team's not your team, bud. Like, it's just not, I don't think that's actually the story. We're in a really different tragedy. Like, just because it happened to you doesn't mean it's going to happen to me, actually. And he talks about in 2013, he had almost, not fully, but almost a very new, very different staff. And they do not all say it's burnout to be the reason that they left. But I remember hearing that story in 2020 and thinking, I was already burned out, to be honest, in that season of my life, and I was very young at that point. And I was like, wait, so this can be something that happens to you like after the actual incident even occurred? Like, I could be trying to live my healthiest life right now. I'm doing all the things I'm like drinking all the water. I'm doing all the exercise. I'm even trying to go to therapy. Why? I'm not doing anything wrong here. I cannot figure out why I'm like you just said, burnt out or even depressed. And again, it's the peeling back the layers. Well, where did it really start? And for a lot, we're in 2023 now. I'm like, it is no shock or surprise that in the last year, I'm hearing the word burnout more than ever, because we all experienced in 2020 what we were not yet ready to deal with, but our bodies are feeling, holding, maybe processing, maybe not, some of the major life changes and transitions that would have happened to a lot of us 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now, because 2020 is not the only time people, had that. I don't like to only make it that moment. For some of us, 2021 was a lot harder than 2020. But I say all that to say, like, that just drastically changed the paradigm of what burnout meant and where it can derive from. And I guess almost the seriousness of the issue. I think that's my problem with burnout, is sometimes people will be actually in just a moment where it's just stressful. Like, we've all been in there's time, August, just stressful. Like, it's just stressful. But they'll throw this word burnout around like, I'm just like burned out. Like, I don't know, I can't, but they're fine the next month. And so I'm like, no, that if you're telling me that, I am seriously going to be, as a leader, pursuing you to understand what that means and what we need to do to help get you help. Like, to me, that is a serious matter.
That's drastic.
So when you just say like, I'm just like burned out, I can't do this anymore, you might be saying it lightly, but are you stressed? And those are the other questions I try to ask. Do you just mean you're stressed? Do you just mean you're overwhelmed? Or are we hearing burnout with another lines of depression? Because I'm thinking there's probably some layers to that. And as a leader, I need to help you now, because if you're saying this to me now and you mean that, a year from now, it is not going to be good for either of us if I don't do what I can. I can't force you to heal. I can't force you to get better. I can't force you to peel back the layers. But as a leader, it's my job to hear, I'm hearing those words, but what am I actually hearing? And let's make sure we help lead you in whatever way you want to be led, in order to help the actual true sense of burnout in the way that you just described through that definition, because that is absolutely how I view it. And honestly, a matter I don't think we really take serious enough.
Well, I love the picture that you've painted here. And one thing that this is doing for me, and as we get back from the break, I want to hear everybody's reactions to this and how we are each hearing it kind of in our own spaces, maybe, because I might be wrong in that I hear it, but I hear you saying sometimes you hear it flippantly. The picture that we've painted, and obviously if you read the clinical definition there, burnout is serious. It's almost like, because I have a background in education, I have a background in ministry and youth pastoring. It's like if a student used certain words, it's like, this is a non-negotiable.
Right.
I'm reporting this,
Yes.
suicide or abuse, things where it's like, I'm a mandatory reporter. So this is not even a joke. This is like, I am automatically reporting this.
Right.
And I know that we're not talking about mandatory reporting, but I like the picture of like, now, are you serious? Like, if you're burnout, let's pause, stop, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Let's really talk about this and get serious about it right now. But I don't think that's the way people are using it. And it sounds like you're not either. So when we get back from the break, I want to ask the crowd here, how are you hearing it? And what are some other words we could use? And how do we help coach our peers and even ourselves through seasons of stress?
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That just died.
Okay. I was like, I don't know if it's on or not.
Okay, back from that break. Seasons of stress. I like that term, by the way. I like that term. Okay. Are you in a season of stress or are you burnout? I'm just going to ask the audience here, what do you think? Like, what's your reaction to what Anj said? Do you have peers? Because, we're different ages. We have different jobs. We have different roles. How are you hearing people use burnout? I just feel like it's just part of the vernacular more and more. And maybe it is, maybe it is a legitimate, a serious thing. Because I never want to undermine that. I never want to be, I don't want to be flippant about it. If someone says, oh, I'm burnout, I'm like, oh, come on, toughen up. I don't want to be, I don't want to become callous to it.
But the concern as a leader is if it actually is at that point, like someone really is burnt out, there's very minimal ways I actually can help them as a leader. That's the concern. Because if we're actually at the point, like you're telling me you're burnt out, and we've done this before, then I need to give you time. I mean, you have to take 2 weeks and find what the next steps are going to be for us. Like I cannot, if you are truly burned out in the way that we are all saying right now, then me switching your role is not going to help anything. Me giving you a role you feel more significant isn't going to help anything. It's just going to perpetuate this cycle that we're in. And so that's the heart when I hear, and I guess that's why it's so like ding, ding, ding alarming to me as a leader is because I'm like, man, if that's true, then you're coming to me to figure out what else you can do at work. But it's the reverse of that. I have to figure out what to help you do in your life, not work.
Yes. Well, I
and
guess-
I can't control that.
And as leaders, I can only speak from our experience and encourage you, if you are a leader in an organization to have influence, put places, talk to your HR department. If you are in HR, we have a lot of clients that we work with that are HR professionals. This is where, to me, that's where you can create a culture that listens to that.
Right.
That if someone does come to you and says, I am experiencing burnout in a legitimate sense, and I, as your manager, leader, boss, even company culture, whatever, I can't really fix that. I can't really do much for that other than work to help you create pathways that allow for healing. So whether that is your time off policies, whether that is your in-house services, if you're large enough, maybe you do offer counseling services, or maybe that's part of something that you cover. I know a couple of organizations a couple of executives that I coach, one organization just brought a psychologist on staff. They just started paying her on retainer for issues like this and others, just so that, that their people would have a resource to receive treatment, to receive help.
That's beyond a job description. Like I'm not going to reformulate your job to make this better for you. It goes so much deeper than that.
Well, so then if we say that's one, and I want to encourage people, that's to me, I think that's good. We talked about 21st century skills in the past. I think that is a 21st century work culture where we are more in tune with mental health, wellness, which I think this certainly falls into that category, holistic wellness and accommodating people in that way. But those are the extreme situations, like we just said.
Right.
My frustration is, I'm going to say something that's pretty unpopular here, okay? And
am I wrong?
You might, am I wrong? I think sometimes people just want to be burnt out. They want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I wrong, Jess?
No, you're not wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
You're so right.
Yeah, but tell me about it.
So I mean, I could speak to this subject in a couple of different ways. I do think that people use it flippantly. Like I do think that people don't understand the true definition of what burnout might be. And we kind of just throw the word around amongst a bunch of other things. I feel like that's a common thing. People just use words and phrases about things that they just don't know about.
Yeah.
I would say last week when we had brought up the subject of talking about this, I was kind of thinking about my own experience with this and what I thought burnout was compared to like obviously thinking more about it and how I assumed I experienced it. And I pretty recently, I would say I like specifically with Passport, like I thought I was experiencing burnout, but it was very situational and it was just stress. Like I wasn't going through like a midlife crisis or anything, but it just, I think that we don't understand what it means. So I think that burnout to what we assume it can be is just situational. Like in that moment, I was working on a big project that was just necessary for that time, but that wasn't forever. And then I also think that burnout in some ways can be, you can drag yourself out of it. Like I was thinking in my position with you guys, like I could, if I was experiencing that, like I could come to you guys. And I think that if someone else were experiencing it that I'm close with, I would be like, well, why don't you just get out of it? And sometimes that's just not the case. And so I think the severity of what we assume burnout is the problem. And I don't know, if I were giving advice to a friend, I would be like, well, why don't you just talk to your boss about it? But then again, they don't have the same bosses that I have.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that it depends who you're around and what you're experiencing and like maybe a project that you're working on specifically. So
well, which speaks to the Good Leader podcast, that if you're listening to this and you are overseeing people, work to create the type of relationships, culture, and pathways to people can speak to you before burnout, if it is a season, and also proactively, because I know Anj did this with you. And for the audience's clarity, Passport is our curriculum that we sell to schools and grants and different agencies for student-based leadership. And it's a very big project. It is an entire year's worth of curriculum, and Jess is overseeing multiple pieces of that. So it is a stressful time, but Anj, I know, does a good job of asking those questions. How are you? How are you doing? We're looking at this deadline. We're approaching it. Even encouragement of like, this season's almost over, like, hey, and I know even pushing you toward one thing that we do. And if I'm just giving a quick little tip, You want to be a better leader tomorrow, make your people use their vacation time. Whatever your vacation policy is, even if you say, I can't control vacation, I can't control PTO. No, but you can encourage your team, your department to use it, take it. Even if they say, I think, Jess, during that season, that's when I posted like, hey, you don't have to have a big elaborate vacation to take a break.
And that's when it all went. And then you were even like, I'm glad you're taking a vacation because I was wondering when you were going to.
Yeah, take a break.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm just going off that point on a quick one because I was going to say, I think a good example, because I also don't want to discredit what Jared's saying as well. Like there are these big projects that hit, right? And they actually can lead to burnout. Like I'm thinking of what Jess did that she's not really bragging on herself enough for is that deadline hit, it passed, and then she literally took the week off and you were home. Like you hung out at home. It's not like you had these crazy big plans. Like you took the week off. Now we are a company where you're fortunate to almost have unlimited time off. And so I do understand not everybody may take it in that way, but she did take a week and she was, and I could like see a difference in her and she was just able to rest. That's it. Like the body, the mind, the soul just needed rest and something that weren't the stressful four walls that she had been in. And I did see you kind of turn a new leaf out of that. I think burnout starts to happen when we aren't doing those things as well. I don't want to only paint a picture like something had to happen to us 5 years ago really drastically for us to be feeling it now. I think we can also allow ourselves to get to that space because we almost want to be seen as what Jared's saying, like our identity is in working hard enough, being the one who's going to perform, being the one that hits the stressful marks, doing all these things that we actually lead ourselves to the burnout place Jared and I are talking about as well. And so even on a leadership sense, like I saw you really get yourself out of that, Jess. And so I think both things can happen is what I'm saying. I think it can be big moments, but I think it can also be big projects we just continue to take over and over and over and over again until we have now created this burnout scenario for ourselves as well.
I like that you have painted the picture that burnout seems to be almost this long form, almost chronic situation where stress is this acute situation.
It truly is.
It seems to be that burnout can rear its head in these stressful, acute, whether it be projects or overworked situations. So that was helpful.
Well, I think that we're just adding more language to it, which is always powerful. You know, that's like, oh, I'm fine or I'm burnout. Well, there's a big pathway in between. And in that big pathway in between, you see these stressful moments. I would assume, and I could be wrong, I don't know that I have ever experienced burnout. I would say I haven't, but I've experienced a lot of stress. And there are times in my life where I see red flags or I see yellow flags along the way, and we either ignore it or to Anja's point right there, we glamorize it. Like especially leaders, a lot of leaders glamorize that. Like, oh yeah, I'm super tired, but I'm not even going to sleep tonight. You know, like I got 4 hours last night, probably going to do it tonight, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. But you know what? I'm a leader and I can do it.
To me, burnout is this. It tends to be a little bit more emotional, spiritual, a deeper thing.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we actually overwork ourselves because we're burnout, and it almost adds fuel to the fire.
Yes.
Oh,
I totally agree. 100%. I totally agree.
Yep.
And often, you know, and to, you know, let's end this with saying like we don't know the clinical answer, and there is no. If you are actually burnout, it is a severe state. That's my biggest walk away. You know, and it's much like when I'm talking to our girls on our 10-year-old soccer team, and they tell me they can't breathe because I've made them run a lap. You ran a lap around the soccer field, and you stop because you can't breathe. And I say, if you can't breathe, I'm going to take you to the emergency room right now. Well, I mean, I'm like, then keep running.
Coach Jared.
Coach Jared.
Moral
He's
of the
not-
story.
Well, but if you can't breathe, I use that silly example, but if you are burnout, that's serious. And I will take it seriously. As a leader, I want to create pathways for that. And yes, if that girl could not breathe, I would take her to the hospital. If I have a teammate that tells me I am burnout. It is leading to depression. It is all of these things. I want to help you with that as much as I can, which is just creating pathways to get help.
And I can't force it.
And I can't force it, but I can if you want time off, availability, all those things. But then helping people understand, even ourselves, maybe even let's not focus on others. Help yourself by giving yourself more language. Is this a season of stress? Am I not taking care of myself? Is this not burnout, but it is a red flag? It is a gigantic red flag that I should stop. I should not keep going. I should take a break. Those are my takeaways of the day. What are you thinking, Anj?
The last one I would end on is what you reward gets repeated.
Okay.
And so when you have a team of really high achievers, the more you keep rewarding the pieces you're talking about, Lim or Jared, like man, I stayed up 4 hours last night. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. The more I say like, oh, good job. I'm so glad you did that. Man, the more I see it repeated. But the more I'm like, well, great. What are you going to do is I've had that conversation before. Like, man, I had to stay up all night, do that thing. I'm like, great. What space are you going to take time to make up for that? Like, where are you going to take a day off to rejuvenate from that? That's what gets rewarded. Same way for Jess. I was like, good. I'm glad you took a vacation. I was wondering when you would. I almost praised her taking a vacation over even completing the project.
Yeah.
And so I just really want to, remind people of that, like what you challenge gets rewarded. And I know you want to, or I'm sorry, what you reward gets repeated. And I think that just goes in a lot of different hits of leadership. But I think we should remember that for our high achieving performers as well.
Absolutely. It's a good way to end it. What you reward gets repeated. So be safe, be careful, take care of yourself, be a good leader.
Perfect timing.